So this is from a conversation I had, this particular topic here about the adult community, church, and individuality. I want to say that as far as my friend, I'm just going to call him Jay, just keep it very short and simple. And the conversation itself is something that I guess it's not exactly unique or anything, but what came of it is definitely unique. So, for those who are not aware, many people in the church can view the adult community as nothing short of sexual deviancy and basically everything that is sexually related and is essentially wrong. So, if you're a part of this community, you're wrong, straight up. You're living in sexual immorality and stuff like that. They are looking at it from a very small point of view, a very small perspective. There is some truth to there because there are many who are wrapped up in their own issues and addictions and problems. And just like many in the church who have their own. It's different though. However, it's still very much true as far as the being, addicted to what appeals to you on the sexual side. That is true, but slapping that and labeling the entire community as that, that's something I disagree with. The one thing that puts me at odds with the church is the fact that there's individuality and there is freedom of expression in the adult community, and that I strongly believe this is a part of God that is completely ignored and not talked about. To a point, you could include furries, you can include those who call themselves pups, the females who call themselves kittens. You can include the LGBTQ community as well. Freedom of expression is it is there, and it is very strongly held as it being both an identity, as a part of their identity, as well as their individual expression, their creativity. It is shown through their designs, through their artwork, through how they operate. Now, even though there is a lot of issues that are a part of that, in the sense where it is pushed onto them by those in social media and those who are in control. Specifically, I feel this way, therefore I'm going to change my sex and all of that. Like, this is who I am, therefore I got to go this way. In a sense, it's a bandwagon that's being pushed on that many people feel like they should be a part of. There's a lot of feelings involved here. So as far as individual creativity, feelings are a large part. That will never change. Now, the thing that I noted is the fact that the church is very much against anything like that because it is labeled, or rather, many of those, the pastors, the leaders, the elders, label this as being sexually immoral and wrong. There's other words and labels that they use, but it generally falls under that category. This is not easy to talk about, and as far as my friend, going back to him, he's awesome and I like talking to him and spending time with him. But there's one thing there are a couple things that he does that I do not. One of them is simply spread scripture. This is incredibly important, and it is a foundation that I and him both share, that we believe others should have a strong foundation in our life to build off of. Now, his reason for sharing it is different than my reason for why I am very more quiet about that, simply because there is a lot there, and I present things in a different way than he does, which is why I don't do things the way he does. It is still equally important because the whole entire point is honestly needed. When you got structure and you got men and you got those and you got families being pulled apart and taken away, you're going to have some very serious issues with the next generation growing up, which is one of the biggest problems with, this is getting a little off topic, but with today's youth. However, when it comes down to individuality, that is something that the church does very poorly on. Many would prefer to have child of God as, their identity. This is something that who we are. Like, that's what many believe. I personally disagree with this, and I may have talked about it before, but I'll mention it again briefly here. I believe child of God is a label that applies to many individuals, but the individual part is not there because it is unique to you and you alone. So child of God cannot be an identity according to what I understand and what I believe. But if you want to choose to make it be an identity, that's perfectly fine. Either way, individuality is something that is highly... give me 1 second. It is something that matters very much to God, and He has designed people to be such a way, along with free will, because He wants followers, He wants family. He doesn't want robots and servants and people who can't think for themselves, who cannot be themselves. He merely asks that we open up and follow Him and to have a relationship with Him. Now, this is specifically through His Son, Jesus. Now, for those who are outside of the Christian faith, this may be looked upon very differently because Jesus is not the center of their religion and faith and beliefs. For Christianity, He is the entire heart. You take out Jesus, you take out everything. Now, I want to say that as far as individuality goes, this is something that is incredibly important but often ignored because there is so much that is subjective and personal that can lead you off of the path. And on top of that, this is another kind of a hidden factor that is not talked about, but the church, the elders, and those in charge, the ones who are primarily leading and teaching, they're the ones who talk about, or rather cater to, the couples and the families that provide the majority of the donations. That is the first reason. The second one is the topics themselves have to be within a certain time frame. Anything beyond that, it's liable to be, the controversial parts are liable to be cut off and all of that. And the last reason is, if they want to have a certain narrative and a certain topic, you actually have to write down an outline of what you're going to talk about and what you should try to either touch upon briefly and then move on, or just cut out completely. So you have to do lots of planning. It is not the church's job to create division and to create issues and drama and problems. So to that end, I will have to give them credit for not talking about this just because of how massive it can be and all the problems associated with it. But still completely ignoring it outright, that is something that outright infuriates me. Because completely ignoring freedom of expression, which even though it is not tied in with the Constitution, with the United States, with the freedom of speech itself, the fact is, I support that since I was in the military for 10 years of my life. I mean, the Army values mean something to me, but I do not expect them to mean anything to those who are in the church. The core values. It is something that I actually believed in, unlike quite a few others out there. But you know what? That's for another video. The Army values, I probably